Roxy Xebec has made his entrance, cutting a whole Elbaf mountain in half like it's butter. This man literally defeated an admiral in Mariejois. Bro is so broken that he fathered not one, but 2 emperors of the sea. It doesn't stop there though, because Balls the Prediction has just figured out that Roxy Xebec was the previous wielder of Law's Ope Ope no Mi. Then there is Loki, whose power we have to scale at a different level now, because his backstory has gotten even sadder, with him now likely being the driver of the ancient weapon Pluton. You know what? This chapter was so peak, chapter of the year for me. Play the intro. Continuing through the Elbaf flashback, we have moved to 63 years ago. Here, Big Mom has crashed out completely, leading to the oldest man in the world, Jorul, to perish in battle. That same year, Elbaf faced many more tragedies, such as windstorms, bitter cold, waves devastating crops, which led to famine. It was all around the most chaotic time for the country. The one blamed by the Queen of Elbaf for all of this would be none other than her own infant son, Loki. Estrid says that due to Loki surviving his fall to the underworld, it has cursed the entire country. While guards say that it's probably just a coincidence, Estrid is disgusted by the mere sight of Loki. The child simply wants to be loved and held by his own mother. He is begging for it. Instead, she screams, ordering the guards to drag Loki away as she doesn't want the monster near her at any cost. Now, throughout Estrid's crash out, I noticed something interesting. She keeps focusing on Loki's eyes, especially pleading the guards to gouge his monstrous sight out. If left unchecked, this curse would grow till it brings about the entire giant kingdom's collapse. And speaking of collapse, Yusuf wants you to imagine something real quick.
Imagine waking up in the world of One Piece, but instead of becoming a badass pirate like Luffy, you get turned into a mushroom. Yeah, I'm not joking. That's literally what happens in Isekai Slow Life, the sponsor of today's video. This is a cozy fantasy game where you're transported to another world and have to build a whole town from scratch. You're not just growing crops, you're opening restaurants, schools, hot springs, even running a potion shop with your waifu squad. You can fish, farm, cook. It's honestly the perfect escape between manga drops. And yes, there's a legit million-word storyline packed with weird, funny, and surprisingly emotional moments. If you like One Piece's world building, you'll love exploring the customs and cultures in Isekai Slow Life. And by downloading Isekai Slow Life by using the link below, you'll be supporting the channel. Use gift code MUSHRUM to get 10 free draws right away.
As soon as we saw baby Loki, the eyes were the biggest focus point, especially since we haven't seen such a pattern in all of One Piece. And with Astrid reinforcing this idea of the eyes being the cause of Loki's curse, it's safe to say that whatever calamities Elbaf is facing now, it has its links back to Prince Loki's eyes. The boy is special or cursed. The reason for Estrid to be the one that fears him the most is due to her knowledge in the ways of geomancy, which is kind of like divination from configuring objects or buildings. It's kind of like feng shui, but in the world of One Piece, any aspects relating to the spirit or life essence has its roots in Haki, because every single thing in One Piece has its own will. Even inanimate objects, as we found out through the breath of all things. Different countries and cultures have their own interpretations of Haki, such as mantra in Skypiea or full-on utilization of an advanced form such as Ryo in Wano. Similarly, this geomancy that Estrid practices could simply be a form of reading the flow of Haki around people and objects. She even says how Harald's spirit is leaking to the east, so they must close the windows. Maybe that's why bro shot blanks for 20 years until having kids. Like, that's just a thought. So carrying baby Loki in her belly for all those months gave Estrid a very good understanding of what kind of power her son really has. After seeing those eyes and how they changed the flow of hockey in the world, it scared her even more. That's why she threw her own child away. But those eyes hold an even greater secret regarding an ancient weapon, which I will expand on in just a bit, because Elbaf is kind of cooked right now. Due to the famine, villages have started to attack one another for food and resources. Some of them are even thinking about going and attacking humans to take their food. The desperation has gotten so bad, with barely any choices left for the masses, that they start to blame Prince Loki, who is cursed, for their troubles. And so they want to sacrifice Loki's older brother Haruden to please the gods, so they will lift the curse. Which makes no sense, as if it's Loki to blame, why are you punishing the brother? Through this, Oda is trying to showcase how people in desperate, starving times will resort to any action in order to make sense of their situation and try to solve their situation. Even killing a child is okay. However, Ida wasn't gonna let them just take her beloved son, who will be the longest living man. Luckily, King Harald finally shows up in the nick of time to save not only Ida and Haruden, but all of Elbaf. He rallies his people together and stops the infighting. Turns out that word reached the outside world about Loki's birth and the famine, while Harald was busy forging diplomatic ties with nations. When the king of Elbaf and his allied human countries heard the news, they acted without hesitation by loading up tons of food and supplies to be shipped to Elbaf. All of Elbaf's friends came together to make sure that they had enough to truly fill and satiate their giant bellies. This kind of act by human nations towards Elbaf in their time of need causes great adoration from the giants towards the humans, as Harald says that this world is theirs to share. Even though the giants are bigger and stronger than all the humans, without this aid, Elbaf would have gone through a massive civil war or even been wiped out entirely. What just happened in Elbaf is a huge shift in the mechanism of the world order. King Harald, through his action of being saved not by the world government, rather through mutual alliances forged with allies, has created an alliance system outside of Emu's control, not held together by the fears of pirates and paying heavenly tributes, but mutual benefits, kind of decentralized. King Harald gave new navigation tools, building techniques, and might of the giants to other nations. They are an ancient and proud country with knowledge lost to the outside world. Before Harald, travel between islands was even more perilous, so helping establish easier trade, he has benefited these allied nations massively. So now, in their time of need, the giants are receiving aid. At the same time, we hear some of the local giants crying and thanking the humans as they now owe their lives to these countries. This is a complete reversey of how the world government operates. Instead of helping a struggling nation, they are instead cast away. How is a nation going through famine supposed to pay heavenly tribute? But if you don't pay heavenly tribute, you get no aid, eventually resulting in a celestial culling games happening on your island, as Emu takes you as slaves for his bridge project and your land is taken by the celestials. We saw something similar happen to Whitebeard's homeland. They were barely surviving and couldn't afford tribute, so their island was ravaged by pirates, with the government turning a blind eye. This event of Elbaf being saved by human aid is likely also one of the main reasons for the current generation of Elbaf kids being kinder to humans. In the past, giants of Harald's generation viewed people as mere weaklings who the giants should just trample to show off their might. Like, they didn't even care about them, they're ants. But after Ida showed Harald the humans' own beauty and strength, not through raw power but other means, the people of Elbaf started to see humans as people too. Like, they got some spicy ass food, like they got all the masala and stuff, you know? We want that for Elbaf. While the allied nations now view giants as much more sophisticated, not just simple beasts who will ravage their islands. Imagine if that one guy in the chapter did rally their village to go loot and pillage pillage a human nation to relieve the famine. There would be even more animosity against the giants. This famine would have been solved by waging war. The humans will be much more prepared. It won't be as easy. The giants will have to expend more resources militarizing and strengthening their weapons and warriors instead of using that time to pursue their own free will and actions. Similarly, the humans, after being defeated, they will bolster their own defenses and weapons and losing their own free time to fight the giants. That's what Harald dreams for the world and giants, to get rid of this fighting amongst islands and nations being pit against each other by the world government and Imu-sama for his grand control of the One Piece world. Cooperation gives freedom and power to the most amount of people, while oppression concentrates that power to a select few like the Celestials, breeding discrimination and division by design so that the ones in power stay in power. Moving away from the geopolitics of the One Piece world, Queen Estrid is dead, finally. Bro, listen to this, yeah? She had been publicly declaring that the suffering of Elbaf was brought on by Loki's curse. She was yapping this whole propaganda up until the day before Harald came back. Even on her deathbed, she hated her son. However, Harald doesn't treat Loki like the rest. He holds his son up with pride, and honestly, the panel on this angle, he looks like Kaido, right? It's not just me, right? He looks like Kaido, and then later in the chapter, Loki like jumps from the sun world to the underworld, and Kaido did that too. And then Loki, young Loki, you literally see young Loki wielding a kanabo, and Harald this whole time has been like traveling around the world, smashing all these baddies probably. Hey, I'm just saying, we know he shoots blanks, but maybe with Kaido he got lucky. Who knows, right? They look very similar, just look at them. Either way, you guys should go get some gamer subs, because if you drink gamer subs, you get like ancient giant island pillar powers. Trust me. Use code ABD for 10% off. Anyways, Harald asks about his son's bandaged eyes, to which the guards say that he can see, but the condition he was born with is the reason for the bandages. It's likely to hide the cursed eyes that his mother kept on yapping about. Harald is a little dense here. Like, bro just thinks, oh, Loki isn't smiling because mom just died. What mom, bro? What mother, bro? Ask the guards, like, what the fuck that woman was doing to listen to the propaganda. Then Oda rubs the salt on Loki's wounds, okay? He drops one of the saddest lines in all of One Piece.
At only a few months old, Loki had given up on love itself.
After Estrid's passing, Elbaf's diplomacy started to bear fruit as their famines and bad luck started to go away, which I think has a direct correlation to Loki stopping his search for love from his mother. What if those eyes of Loki have an effect on things around him? You know, the god hockey theory of how people with this advanced form of conquerors can affect reality itself through their will? What if Loki's eyes have this power built in? That's why, without training, he was able to use it against Imu's devils 14 years ago. He says that Luffy and Elbaf will need this power to save the island after feeling Imu's devil aura. The reason for Elbaf's famine and bad luck, it was due to Loki's cries for his mother's love. These cries caused his will for attention to seep into the environment, resulting in calamities. It was as if nature itself was crying on behalf of child Loki's desire. After Estrid, Loki's new caretaker would be his Estrid's brother, because King Harald was a deadbeat just like all the other goated fathers in One Piece, like my favorite, Monkey Deadbeat Dragon. He left Loki to keep forging diplomatic ties throughout the world, building up trade and communication networks everywhere, while Ida and Hiruden started a bar in the underworld, which seems like the same bar that we saw Colin and Shanks at right before the Zasnicha versus Kid fight. The reason for Ida starting a bar in the underworld is likely to help Harald forge even more alliances with pirates, as anyone who ventures into Elbaf first stumbles to the land of the dead, so they will naturally come across Ida's bar. 7 more years pass as we move to 56 years into the past, when a reverie took place. Turns out Harald managed to show up in Mariejois for it. He did so by disguising himself as a bodyguard for a king friend that was invited. However, this meeting didn't didn't really go anywhere. It seems Harald's purpose wasn't to petition the world government for Elbaf joining. Rather, he wanted to test the waters with some indirect questions to see if Elbaf joining was at all possible or not. He couldn't just waltz in as the king of Elbaf because you need an invite to join the reverie. Bro would instantly be arrested since he's literally forging alliances without the government's approval. Now, why does Harald want to join the government still? He already has friends and allies willing to help. Why not just start their own alliance built on trade and diplomacy without a central figure who dominates everything? Well, the One Piece world is vast and the Marines are everywhere. The pirates are everywhere. If a nation decides to join another organization which stands in opposition to the Celestial Order, it would be much easier for a big dog like the world government to squash that nation with a buster call. The giants are strong, but they can't defend all of the islands. Emu's numbers are just higher. The balance of the world would be disturbed. So instead, Harald likely plans to join the reverie and try and change the world by joining an already established organization, which is in line with how Harald has been operating for the past nearly 50 years. Instead of being adversarial, he wants to forge new routes through conversations and mutual benefit, not force. However, I don't think Harald knows the dark secrets of the world government, that they are a corrupt bunch with the devil at the king's seat. That's why later in the future, Harald found out about the real truth and didn't comply with Emu 14 years ago, resulting in his death. Jumping to the events of the reverie though, apparently a murder happened and Harald almost got caught. Hearing about being captured, Ja Rule remembers an ancient tale of the Gali Ra Warhammer Company. They were a group of giant shipwrights that used warhammers. In the past, they traveled far and wide, sending letters periodically back to Elbaf. Ja Rule apparently recorded the final letter himself where they said they had been captured. Over 1,000 warriors were taken prisoner, including ancient giants by the world government. Apparently, they faced a great enemy and were wiped out. Ja Rule also mentions that there might be a deeper reason for Harald's ideals not working out. The other human nations cooperate with Elbaf. Harald has proven the success of his new decentralized system for the world. However, the world government, which says they are for the betterment of the different islands, don't even want to hear what Harald has to say. So it's rather suspicious, right? We, the audience, know why, of course. It's because the giants fought for the ancient kingdom in the Void Century War of Joy Boy versus Emu. Emu views the giants as nothing but brutes. They would never be accepted into Emu's world wielding rights. Yet Harald still wants to keep trying. His vision is for a free Elbaf. Ja Rule also mentions something interesting here, that these Gali Ra giants might have been frozen somewhere. And if we go back to Punk Hazard, we see this random ass panel of frozen giants, some look even ancient, wielding warhammers that remind me of the Gali Ra shipbuilders. We have already heard the name Gali La before in One Piece. In fact, the logo for Iceberg's company in Water 7 has a Viking boat. There is a clear connection to Elbaf here. What if this group of 100 giants were the original Gali Ra? They helped Joy Boy build ships in the Void Century War like the Noah, and conveniently, the Sea King said that they will need that clan to fix Noah. What if they were referring to the giants of the Gali Ra? Furthermore, these shipwrights must have been at the pinnacle of shipbuilding, as even the boat spirits, like the one that showed up to fix the Mary, the Claubautermon, wields a similar hammer. So my theory is that these same shipbuilders created the ancient weapon Pluton, which is stuck in Old Wano right now. That's how Tom gained access to the Pluton blueprints, because he had been an acquaintance to some of these giants, or his master had been an acquaintance to some of these giants. Because how else would Iceberg just randomly name his ship company at Water 7 Gali La, which sounds literally the same as Gali Ra in Japanese with a Viking boat? The government has been after Pluton, an ancient weapon, for centuries. They must have found and captured the Gali Ra giants, freezing them or even used them for experiments, since they are at Punk Hazard. hazard. Future Sid here real quick, and me and Yusuf were just having a discussion, and we have come to the conclusion that there is a deeper connection between Elbaf and Fishman Island. Remember last chapter when Harald mentioned that he visited Fishman Island and King Neptune had just been born, right? And then this chapter we learned that another kingdom helped Harald sneak into the reverie as a bodyguard, and we think that that kingdom was the Ryugu kingdom, because it was only 200 years ago that the fishmen were allowed into the world government and the reverie system. Because of that, they would be way more sympathetic towards the giants of Elbaf, another non-human race of the world who faces discrimination. However, due to the existence of Noah in Fishman Island and Tom, a fishman, having had the Pluton blueprints, I believe that even before Harald, the fishmen were visited by the Galera company of giants, and they were the ones who gave Tom his shipbuilding mastery and the blueprints of Pluton. Okay, I just wanted to sneak in and add that little bit of information. Back to Loki and how he's the driver of Pluton. This Pluton connection now brings me to Loki, who also wields a warhammer similar to the shipwright giants called Ragnir, which can literally shape the atom tree. Using Loki's skills and Frankie's knowledge of the blueprints, they can literally fix up the ancient weapon and use it as an asset for the final war on the Straw Hat side. Furthermore, what if the secret to Loki's eyes is actually Pluton? Giants age at a different scale. Loki is 63 human years old, which is around 20 for giants. And that is in line with Luffy's age of 19 currently. Loki was the first prophesied to be born in this new era, while Shirahoshi as Poseidon can control the sea kings and represents the oceans. Uranus reigns over the skies, and Pluton represents the earth and land. That's why Loki's eyes and unchecked emotions caused famine and natural disasters for Elbaf. That's why Loki is so close to the beasts of the underworld, just like how Shirahoshi is close with the sea creatures. They are literally his best friends. It all comes together when we also look at who the hell is going to drive Pluton, because it's a ship or a vehicle, right? And that person is going to be the one with those cursed snake-like eyes, burrowing and slithering through the lands like a great serpent bathed in blood. That is one of Loki's roles in the final war. And the great serpent bathed in blood, literally the red line, the biggest mass of earth in the entire One Piece world. He is the driver of Pluton. As Loki's future looks in the final war though, his past gets even worse. Estrid's brother was just as bad as her. Bro was feeding Loki food literally from the dumpster. Like, this is like Arby's food, bro. Literal child abuse, okay? Then at the age of 15, Loki crashed out. He had enough. He rallied the beast from the underworld to his side, likely using his Pluton eyes. Loki told them to beat up the giants. Elbaf doesn't need weaklings. He unleashed chaos onto Elbaf and laughed at the weak that ran. Then his brother Haruden challenged him for destroying their father's hard work. But Loki doesn't understand why everyone respects Harald. No one has ever been nice to Loki, so he finds the idea of cooperation dumb. The abuse he suffered from Estrid, her brother, the rest of Elbaf has caused him to pour in that hate onto others, calling humans insects. He just wants to rage out on them. Haruden, who did have a caring mother, explains that they should try to see matters from others' perspectives. Loki shouldn't get cocky just because he's bigger than others. But Loki spews the same words his father once spoke, justifying his carnage. Being cocky is his right because he is the prince, as he slapped up Haruden. Loki spread pain, destruction, but nothing he did filled the hole in his heart. Even though he showed his strength, Haruden's friends rushed to help him. Loki was still alone. They still rejected him. Then Loki broke down completely upon seeing a mother hug her child, something he never experienced before, even though he reached out his arms pleading upon his birth. At that moment, he realized there was no place for him. Everything was futile, so he jumped. Yet falling to the underworld didn't kill him. Even death rejected Loki. However, at that moment, a whole-ass mountain gets chopped in half, shocking Loki into discovering the strongest pirate in One Piece, Rocks D. Xebec. Oda does not hold back at all as we see his full design, bro. This is aura. Look at this design. Look at the pose. Oh my god.
Bro, if I was a girl, legs wide open. bro.
I can't lie, better than what I expected. And it's not just Roxy Xebec we see Whitebeard, Shiki, and Stussy, his OG gang. They are here in search of Elbaf and King Harald. Apparently, Harald met Rox 8 years ago during the reverie. This dude single-handedly, look at that word, single-handedly killed an admiral and vanished without a trace. This feat earned him a massive bounty and the government's eye. First of all, killing an admiral is beyond broken. We literally saw another admiral, Aokiji, go band for band against Garp. And Aokiji lasted 7 days against Akainu, who was at near the level of Whitebeard when he was like 70 years old. So this makes Rox beyond Yonko level in my eyes. Honestly, the strongest pirate in One Piece because, bro, it took Garp, Roger, and likely even Garling Figarland to beat this man at God Valley 38 years ago. If that wasn't enough, Rox is the father of Blackbeard. Just look at their faces. It's the same dude. That's why Teach's ship name is the Saver of Xebec. That's why he's obsessed with Fulalid and making it a country again, because Fulalid used to be Rox Pirates HQ. And I believe 56 years ago, it was Rox's country. However, the government wouldn't allow a wild card like Rox or his country join the reverie. So instead, Rox crashed out, killing an admiral at Mariejois. How did Rox manage such a feat and even left unharmed? Well, because of his devil fruit, the Ope Ope no Mi. Just look at Rox's hand here, okay? Bro is literally making the same like shambles hand sign as Law. And him slicing up that mountain looks way too similar to Law doing it at Punk Hazard. This reveal of Blackbeard being Rox's son also gives us another bit of copium for my goat, Monkey Deadbeat Dragon. He's coming to Elbaf. It is happening. Just look at this, okay? This arc, Oda revealed the father of 3 emperors, okay? First, Shanks and Garling Figarland, which was confirmed by Shamrock in 1138. In manga, it wasn't confirmed until Elbaf. Okay, then now look at Blackbeard's father. It's confirmed. It's Roxy Xebec. Also, Buggy is Rox's son. Just look at the right side of Rox's face. It's Buggy. Okay, hands down, it's Buggy. And Rox has that two-tone hair. One black like Teach, and the other likely blue, similar to Buggy. But Yusuf is working on a big deep dive on how Buggy, Blackbeard, and Shanks are all related to each other, with them being brothers. So watch out for that video next week. However, this means that the dragon agenda is still strong. The faithful will be rewarded. Stay patient, you guys. Luffy, who is the last emperor, his father, Monkey Deadbeat Dragon, has to make a move as well now, because the other 3 emperors, Buggy, Shanks, and Blackbeard, their fathers have been revealed. They made their moves in Elbaf arc, right? They have to have movement. Otherwise, we're cooked. If Dragon doesn't make a move, he's coming to the final war. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. This was honestly the best One Piece chapter. Please buy the merch. We have Nakama merch, Asta merch, all the peak merch. Get some gamer subs.